So my name's Shazia Khan, and today we'll be doing Unit 3, which is Business Communication. So I'm just going to go through the module spec with you, and the main aim of the unit is also to look at like communication skills, but also theories and why it's so important to have effective communication in any business. Be it a shop, be within a business, why communication is so important. The unit code is J6504817. So when you're doing your assignment session, you need to put the unit code and the credit values on there. You are expected to either get a pass, merit, or distinction, dependent on whether you do the extension activities. In order to achieve this unit, you must produce work that is at achievable level, and you must meet the learning outcomes. So every week from now, we'll go through each learning outcome so you have a better idea. And then at the end of it, which I tend to do, I don't know whether other tutors do it, I go through all 4 learning outcomes and then get to the assignment as well. So that's probably a longer session because we kind of go through the assignment area, but also we identify the 4 learning outcomes a little bit more as well. So it's a repetition of what we'll be doing. You'll have learning outcome 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay, and then you'll have an assignment discussion session. So you've got 5 sessions to go through. You've got one today at 2 o'clock and then the tomorrow at 2 o'clock, okay?
Yeah.
When you're talking in your assignment about you know, when you're doing your assignment areas, you look at your learning outcomes, but you also need to identify your assignment with you know, examples. So if you're talking about business structures or effective communication, and you're talking about barriers to communication, you'll say one of the barriers could be language, and you give an example. Someone speaks this language and it's difficult for them to, you know, communicate in another language. That's the whole point of, you know, we have you know, an example I'll give you: in a hospital, we have issues around, you know, hello, sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Yeah, it was just the internet just went off, sorry. Just 1 minute. So when we look at business communications, we look at the fact that we need to look at different business structures, but also more than that, it's about communication skills, why we need communication. Now, if I ask you about communication, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Personal communication?
Yeah. If I ask you what is effective communication, what would come to mind for you?
Getting the message across effectively?
Yeah. And why is it so important if you have to get the message across to different people? Are all people the same?
No, they're not the same.
No. So because everyone's different, they communicate different, they learn, the way they learn is different as well. So the five elements that you've got, it's learning outcome 1, which is today. So understand the principles of effective internal and external communication. Tomorrow we'll be doing can communicate complex business information effectively in both oral and written forms. And then we've got learning outcome 3, which is to understand how organizations communicate with customers. And then learning outcome 4, which is can review your own personal communication skills. So I'm not going to fully go through that until I go on the slides, and then this will be more discussed towards the end when it's your assignment session, okay?
Okay.
So I'll stop sharing that and then I'll share the slides now. So slideshow. I need to do it like this. Right, let me share the slides. So can you see these slides?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one today, which we're doing, is learning outcome 2, which is learning outcome 1, which is to understand the principles of effective internal and external communication. Again, the unit aim is to develop your knowledge and your skills and understanding of what communication theories are, and also look at the effectiveness of communication within a business. You know, how important a business works with effective communication. You know, sometimes if, you know, you work in a team, you have to have that form of communication with your other
Yeah.
members. You have to communicate with organizations. You know, like if you're selling a product, a deal, would you need to have good communication skills to be able to sell the product, you know, to other organizations?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would need to have effective communication to be able to sell the product as well, and the importance of this. So the indicative content, what we'll be doing in learning outcome 1 is communication process, the transmitter, the message, the channel, decoding, receiving, and feedback. We look at types of communication. We'll look at formal and informal, verbal and non-verbal, and written and internal and external. Channels of communication: speaking, writing, digital, non-verbal methods, use of technology. So why emails, telephones, mobile phones, social media is so important in business communication. Barriers to communication: physical, emotional, speech, language, culture. This is a big barrier to a lot of communication. And I think that's what I kind of, you know, when I've been working in my profession, you do see lots of barriers to communication, being the fact that it's language is a big barrier, and culture. Because for you to shake a Muslim lady's hand would be quite offensive.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would, you know, you would have to take into account cultural views as well. You know, certain things in certain cultures are not acceptable. Shaking hands, again, hugging is another one.
Yeah.
Touching someone's hand, you know, these kind of things are not acceptable. So you've got to really bear in mind that you take into account if you're having any sort of business communication with another organization, maybe from China, Japan, Pakistan, anywhere. Just an example for you, you have to look at their values and also their cultures to not actually offend them. And you know, it plays a big role within communication. So we'll look at 1.1, which is firstly to explain channels of communication used, so internally and externally outside the company. So internal communication, you have face-to-face communication. Why is face-to-face communication so important? It's one of the main forms of internal communication.
I'm not sure about that.
What do you think, if I'm talking to you face to face, Adil, would we be able to identify things that we wouldn't be able to identify if we were on Zoom?
Yeah,
Or,
you'll be able to
you
pick
know,
up like non-verbal
yeah,
cues by body language.
yeah. Body language is really important. Facial expressions. So going back to my example, I've been teaching law for 17 years, but I also worked in the profession for 12. When it came to court proceedings, the courts are now even in the process of saying that, you know, women that Muslim women, or women that wear the niqab, do you know the niqab around the
Yes.
face,
Yeah.
need to come to court, but they need to, if there's evidence to give, they need to go into a separate room and take the niqab off. Why do you think that is the case?
To see through facial expressions, are they being honest or not?
Yes, excellent. And could that identify if the person's guilty or not as well,
Yes.
from their facial expressions?
Yes. Not
Yes, and I
completely.
think that
You can't.
yes, yeah, I think it plays an important role, and I think
Yes.
courts are doing it in a way where it's not culturally offending people. So what they're saying is that it should be taken off. It could be in a separate room to identify, you know, if there's any sort of facial expression, any poker face, any expressions of guilty expressions. So these, and in airports, it's the same. You know, you have to take your niqab off, and it's understandable because, you know, you have to show your face, and it has to match your passport. There has been instances where there has been people who have you know, committed robbery or burglary or any sort of assault on someone, but have wore the religious dress and they weren't Muslims and they were men. So I've dealt with some cases like that, and it's quite upsetting to see that there's a lot of abuse of, you know, cultural dress in that sense. Because I remember once I was waiting for the post office to open, and I was sat outside the post office, and do you know what a burqa is, don't you?
Yes.
Yes, there was 3 people that had the burqa on. They walked into the post office as it opened, and I was in my car. I had no recollection of what they were doing or anything because I thought they were women. And they
Yeah.
come out of the post office running, and then the only thing I noticed was the feet. They'd had trainers on, and they just robbed the post office and hit the postmaster. So, you know, there's been instances where, you know, there has been that. So you've got to be really careful in regards to, you know, facial communication. I think it's so important. It's one of the main ways you can kind of identify immediate feedback or clarity, you know, from someone. And it also identifies, you know, how you work with that person in a working environment. The next one is internal communication, is written communication. And that looks at where organizations will rely on written communication for record keeping, memos, reports, newsletters, and it's the whole point of written communication. It shows there's consistency and provide a tangible reference as well, and also there's clarity within it. Sorry, can I just get just 1 minute?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry about that, Deal. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was just the postman. Sorry about that. So written communication, it comes in the form of memos, emails, and is it so important to have written communication as well? Do you think it's quicker than, you know, having to post out letters and things?
Yes.
Yeah. And you have a record of it as well, which is really important. So when you've got a
Yes.
record of all your communication, if anyone wants to, like, if there's any sort of discrepancies or any sort of inquiries within an organization, you've got everything, haven't you? You've got everything there to prove things. Digital communication, with technology working as quickly as it is, digital communication has become quite an integral part of any sort of organization, any sort of business, because it's collaboration between different organizations, and you know, it's quick, it's provides information swiftly, but also, you know, there's internal chat applications, web chats and things like that that people can chat on and try and get things sorted out quite quick. Again, the next one, formal meetings, discussion meetings within teams, within organizations, to share any sort of updates, but also make decisions as well. And the meetings occur at a different level. So we have board meetings, department meetings, or project updates. I'm part of a board meeting and I chair the meeting. So, you know, I know what happens in a board meeting, what levels you have. So you have meetings at departmental levels, you can be team meetings. So, you know, there's different organizations, and, you know, there's different structures of meetings as well, and how you do a meeting. You know, you can be informal, it can be formal, you know, but there's also, you know, informal communication.
Yes.
And that's more casual exchanges, okay? And that's more of like more of a relaxed conversation, okay? And that could be more within social gatherings. And it's that kind of atmosphere. It's an informal communication. Is it, what do you think? Do you think it's quite a relaxed atmosphere?
Yes.
Yeah. So if we have, for example, I'll give you an example at work, we have the summer conference, okay? That's more relaxed at the end of the year. When we've done all the teaching and everything, we have a summer conference. But then when during the whole academic year, we have meetings, formal meetings, and we're able to identify, you know, a different atmosphere. So do you think as an individual you change as well of how you communicate at these meetings?
You do, yes.
You do, don't you? You're probably, you know, you'll have a more relaxed atmosphere if you're with friends and colleagues. And then when you go to a formal meeting, you've got to be a bit more professional, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got to be like sometimes they say in the UK, you've got to be a bit pompous. That's what we say here. To try and, you know, identify that, you know, you're a bit more posh. Upward and downward communication. So we've got vertical flow of information within the organization hierarchy. Why is it so important to have communication from the top? Why do you think it's so important?
It's important
We have this.
because, yeah,
No, carry on. Sorry, Adith.
because information needs to be
Why do you
passed
think
down.
it's so? Yes, information needs to be passed down. If the information is not passed down from a hierarchy, then are you able to run a good organization?
No.
No. So you've got upward communication, which involves feedback and information flowing from the lower level. So the upward communication is from the lower level to the higher level. And who is the lower level then? Who could it
The
be?
employees,
Employees, excellent. And who's the higher level?
HR,
HR. It could be CEO. It could be the managing director. So then we've got the downward communication, which is from the CEO, the managing director, managers, identifying and disseminating their own goals and information down to the lower level. Okay, so that's from the so downward communication is from higher level down to the lower level, and upward communication is from the lower level up to the higher level. And the lower level, what kind of communication can they do then? What kind of stuff will they communicate to managers?
Well, oh, they could use emails.
Yeah, yeah. What about, like, for example, Adil, if you were working in an organization and you're an employee and you need to get your thoughts across about certain sales, sales of a product, would you mention that to a higher level manager to say, this is my suggestion?
I would, yes.
Yes, and that could be your suggestion. You're communicating that to the higher level to ensure that you know that this product won't sell if we do this or if we do that. Okay,
Yes.
so it's good to have that kind of hierarchy. Sometimes the hierarchical structure works well in bigger organizations, but I think in small organizations, from personal experience, I don't think the hierarchical structure tends to work as much.
Okay.
Why is it important to have a hierarchy?
Because they'll have a better sense of leadership.
Yeah, they'll have a better sense of leadership, yes. Now we looked at the internal ones. Now we're looking at external communication channels.
Okay.
The first one is business letters. So you've got business letters are things that are sent out to external organizations, and they can be in the form of formal written communication, and they could have things like letterheads on top, and they could be sent to clients, external stakeholders, and they're regarded as a more professional and documented record of communication.
Okay.
We have emails, again, a digital communication tool, which is for external communication, and it enables the communicator to communicate effectively with the individual, but also emails is quick, isn't it? You can attach what you want. It's a quick way of collaborating between different organizations and sending your information through quite quickly. And nowadays businesses tend to use emails anyway because it's an easier way of getting your information across.
Yes.
So we've got the next one, which is social media. I think has someone come on?
Yeah, someone has joined.
Gulam?
Hello. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Gulam, hi.
Hi.
Have you joined just now? Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you in the right session? It's business communications.
Yes. 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 Right.
Okay.
Right section. Yes.
Okay. Then we're just going through the slides. Okay.
Okay. It's okay. I listen. Don't worry.
Okay. And no, it's okay. And I'll just ask you questions, okay, if I need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
It's
that
okay.
my way of teaching, and Adil, I didn't say that to you as well at the start, is I tend to make you ask questions because you have a better understanding than if you're doing your assignment.
Okay.
You could use
Ma'am,
examples and things.
it's no possibility. I have one day the class in classroom, one day the online, but it's 2 days coming message. Is it both day is have the online class?
Yeah, you've got a class today, and then you've got a class tomorrow at 2:00, and then
Yeah.
you've got 5 sessions. So you'll do today, tomorrow, then next Friday, Saturday, and then the week after. So it's only 5 sessions you've got.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, and it's 2:00 tomorrow as well. Okay.
Oh, okay. No
Okay.
problem.
So you've got social media. Now, social media again. Do you think we're working towards? Do you think everything we do now is social media? Be honest.
Yes.
I think we can't even engage with people in public without social media now.
Yeah.
What do you think? Sorry, what's that, Adil?
I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah. You sit in public domain, you sit with your family. Social media plays a significant role in external communication. Twitter, TikTok, social media, Facebook,
Yeah.
this kind of thing. And they get to a wider audience, don't they?
Yes.
So it's such a platform. It's a very good platform, is social media. But I think when you get too much into the social media side of it, businesses is excellent. For personal side of it, I kind of am a bit withdrawn with social media for that. Business reports. So these are formal documents that convey any sort of information to stakeholders. Annual reports. You will do a financial report. What's the point of doing these reports? If you're doing a financial report, what is the whole element around doing that?
A financial report.
Yeah.
These are important for stakeholders.
Yeah, important for stakeholders, but they're also important for you as an organization and shareholders, because you're able to identify your financial health, you know, whether you've got a strategic direction, whether you're going to go that way, and your finances are in place, because that's the important thing about an organization.
Okay.
Press releases. So press releases, official statements issued to the media. They're used to announce any sort of changes or any sort of information about the public to the company. Okay. We've also got customer service hotlines. External communication includes providing support and assistance, and this is a growing thing now. Customer service hotlines, any sort of complaints, feedback, loyalty. This is a growing thing, you know, within communication skills. Why do you think we've got so many customer service hotlines now?
Because it's important to keep the customers happy.
Yes. So they provide more services to keep the customers happy.
Yeah.
Just in conclusion, and then we're going to go on to 1.2. So this is 1.1. External communication is vital for organizations to engage with its stakeholders and with the internal structure. The choice of communication channel depends on the nature of the message, the target, the audience, and the communication strategy. It enhances your brand, your reputation, maintains positive relationships with your stakeholders, and contributes to the overall success of the organization. Now, when we look at reputation, why do you think that's so important?
Because if you have a bad brand reputation, you won't be getting any customers.
Excellent, excellent. So we go back to branding, but we go back to it's moving away. Okay, so we talk about this situation in Gaza. Do you think, like with McDonald's, how do you think that's impacting on the business structure?
More important than McDonald's, it's Starbucks. They've lost a lot of money in their for their shareholders. The shareholders lost a lot of money. The company lost lots of its valuation, and their brand reputation has been affected because they've been publicly showing support for one side. Rather, if they really did support it, what they could have done is just kept quiet about it, and it would not have affected their brand reputation as much.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. So it does play a big part, doesn't it? This trying to, you know, keep a good reputation, you know, as an organization, because you can just get shut down straight away. It's the same for law firms. If you're out there and you're not, you know, producing good service to a client, and you're not, you know, you're kind of doing things under the table, you're going to be struck off, you know, and you need to keep that reputation, and people have that reputation about the organization doing this right or doing this wrong, so that it will always be remembered.
Yeah.
So we move now on to 1.2, barriers to communication for organizations. And this will go on in learning outcome 2, 3, and 4. So there'll be some repetition, which we'll be discussing, okay? First one, physical barrier. So that can be barriers, obstacles that prevent you to get any sort of effective message across. They can include things like, you know, where you live, the noisy environment, the layout of the office. Physical barriers can lead to misunderstanding and distortion of messages. Language barriers. Now, language differences among employees and organizations can create communication barriers. And I think this is a really big one. Things like, you know, language proficiency, jargon, you know, misinterpretation of confusion of any sort of effective communication. How you talk to a person is really important, because you are, you know, able to portray the language across. You know, there's big barriers in language, the jargon used. You know, if someone said to me 10 years ago, what does LOL mean? And I wouldn't know. And there's certain jargon that you use on the phone and things with your text jargon that I don't understand.
Yeah.
And it's probably because of my age and things like that. But I think, you know, it's really important to talk in an environment where you have to look at the language you use and how you use that language, the proficiency, the jargon, the terminology, so you don't kind of get any confusion within that.
Yeah.
The next one, number 3, is cultural barriers. And like we mentioned earlier, cultural barriers can be your customs, your values. You know, it could be misunderstanding from cultural diversity. Organizations, you know, operating in a diverse need to be more mindful of to facilitate cultural effective communication. What do you think culturally? What do you think? Give me an example of a cultural barrier.
A cultural barrier. Maybe the timings in some countries,
Yeah,
maybe it's a
yeah,
different time for operating hours, and in another country there's a different
yeah,
timing.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, timings. What else? Customs, your values. What are your values? What could be a value that you have that
Like you said earlier, the
may,
shaking hands. So, you know,
yes,
in
yeah,
some cultures it's okay, but in other cultures not accepted.
yeah. Hugging, things like that. Ghulam, have you got an example of cultural barriers that may impact on effective communication?
Yeah, it's every country or every village some different culture.
Yeah, yeah, they have different cultures. Yeah, they have
Yeah,
different values. They have
yeah,
different, you know, they have different challenges. I mean, I work with people that suffer from sorry, I work on a committee that with people that perform sorry, we try to prevent FGM, you know, female genital mutilation, and that happens a lot in African countries. And if you're talking about female genital mutilation, you may
yeah.
offend someone if you don't
It's
understand.
too many different. Some places religion is
Yeah,
well
yeah.
affected.
Yes, yes, religion, customs, your values, your communication,
Yeah.
you know, so you should communicating diversely with people.
Yes.
Media choice, so the choice of media can be a barrier. So inappropriate use of communication channels, examples solely relying on an email. Selecting the medium is really crucial for effective communication.
Yeah.
Emotional barriers, and that could be like, you know, the fact that someone may be scared of something, they may have a fear, they may be anxious, they may be stressed, and they're barriers that do create you know, issues around communication. Sometimes employees may be hesitant to convey important messages due to the fear of the consequences. So, for example, Adil, maybe you are having some issues around working in an environment with predominantly all white people, and something is said about your culture, you probably will be scared and fearful of what may happen to you if
Yeah.
you know, tell the people or tell management. And there has been instances where I've dealt with cases where people have had discrimination but have been really scared. And why do you think they're so scared?
Because then they won't be accepted in the workplace anymore by their peers. I mean,
Yeah,
they can still work there, but they won't have a good social life there.
yeah. And also, you know, in emotional barriers, do you think it's important to identify you know, do you think as an organization and as a business you should identify if there's anyone that suffers from any sort of anxiety or stress or anything like that?
Yes.
Yes, and that's why all these laws are in place. You know, we have laws around, you know, harassment, bullying, discrimination. And that's why these
Okay.
laws are in place, to protect individuals. Because do you think as an organization things like that happen?
Uh, do I think?
I think
Yes, they
predominantly
do happen.
yes. And does it just happen within like the culture, the color of your skin, or could it be could it be anything? Could it be discrimination against anything?
It could be anything. It could be
Yeah,
anything.
it could be some people will discriminate against a woman.
Yeah.
Some people will discriminate against age. For example, they may say, Adil, you're more younger, so we will give the job to you. You
Yeah.
know, these kind of barriers do play an important part. The next one is disability barriers, and that could be anything to physical or sensory disabilities, such as hearing impairments or speech impediments can act as a communication barrier. How would that be an issue? Disability in the form of speech impediments or hearing? How could
if they
that be a
have
barrier?
if they have speech impediments or hearing, how would they make good employees? Won't they make bad employees?
But is that us discriminating then?
But isn't
If
that
you said what you just said, if you just said what you said, are you discriminating against these people then? It could be, couldn't it?
it could be considered discriminating, right? But they
You
can't
said that, you
see,
said,
right?
no, if you've got hearing impairment or speech impediments, does that mean we don't, that could be a barrier? Because like you said, you know, they would say that this person couldn't work because of these issues. But then are we doing the right thing by doing that?
Yes.
Because we should be, as an organization, what should you provide for these people?
Support.
You should support. Excellent. You should provide support. You should provide sign language. You should provide the facilities, signs to be up, interpreters. You should have communication tools for them accessible to make sure that the communication is inclusive and effective.
Yes.
You know, you as an organization, this is why I'm saying, when it's bigger organizations, they need to be really, really careful that they don't discriminate against people because of, you know, things like, you know, the age or the disability, or discriminate against gender, things like that, because you need to be really careful that there's not a lawsuit there that will, you know, challenge these issues.
Yeah.
And you as an organization need to provide enough services for that person to say that, you know, we have kind of catered for that person.
Yeah.
So effective communication requires identifying and addressing various barriers to ensure a clear and accurate exchange of information. Organizations that actively work to overcome these barriers can create a more inclusive and communicative environment, enhancing overall productivity and collaboration. Now, if we meet the needs of others, do you think our organization will prosper?
Yes.
Yes. So we need to be really, really careful that we, as an organization, are meeting the needs and being more inclusive to people's cultures, to people's barriers, and we need to take into account these barriers. So we looked at the issue around internal communication, external communication. We looked at the issues around communication in regards to barriers to communication and how organizations should, you know, impact on, you know, trying to provide an inclusive and communicative environment for individuals, and also, you know, trying to provide services for these individuals. So these are some of the references we've used in today's session, which is a list of books in regards to that you may be able to use when you're doing your assignment and things. So you could use these as links for your assignments. We've also used some other books which are there as well. Books on communication technology, books on diversity within the workplace, also communication technology, why it's so important, journal article on organizational structures, and internet sites on World Tech organizations. We've also looked at how effective use of written communication is in any organization, and why it's so important within an organization to have this effective communication.
Okay.
And then we finish off here. Have you got any questions?
No, I don't.
Are you sure, Adil? Ghulam, have you got any questions?
No, it's okay. No way.
So if you need any sort of extra resources, you need to refer to the ebooks and journals on Moodle. Have you got access to Moodle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Ghulam, have you got access to Moodle as well?
Noodle, I don't know.
Moodle is the VLE, so the virtual learning environment. So for all your modules, you need to go onto Moodle to get any sort of resources. These lectures are recorded. They will be uploaded onto Moodle for you, so you can get some more extra resources, because you missed the first part of today's session. So you need to make sure that you listen to the recording, okay? Any further reading, ebooks, additional resources is on Moodle. Any queries you have, you can go to learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. When it comes to session 5, it's assignment session, you need to submit your assignment on learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. If you have any questions, as we go along, I'll ask you things if you need any clarification or anything like that. If you have any questions, we can work towards the end as well, but I like contributing in class. When we have smaller groups, it's a lot nicer to contribute and ask you questions, okay? So you have a better understanding. Ghulam, if you go back on the slides at the start, we've looked at outcome 1 today, okay? Which was to develop the understanding of the principles of effective internal and external communication. And we looked at internal, external communication, and we looked at barriers to communication. And we'll do a lot of this. There'll be some repetition throughout learning outcome 2, 3, and 4. Has anyone got any questions, Adil or Ghulam?
No questions.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So I hope it was nice to have you in this session today. And I hope you understood and will take on board what we've done today and do some additional reading around it. And I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the next session. Is that okay for learning outcome 2?
Yeah, all right.
Excellent. Nice to speak to you, Adil and
All right.
Ghulam. And I will see you
Nice to speak
tomorrow
to you.
at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
All right, thank you. See you later.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye. Thank you. Ghulam, are you okay?
Yeah, me okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Ghulam, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.